Alright guys, hope you all had a great weekend, hope you're all keeping yourself safe. Now, there's not a lot going on in the Division 2, but Phase 3 of the PTS is currently underway, and there are a couple of things worth talking about today. These include a 105% damage buff mechanic that I never knew about until recently, and actually explains some crazy raid time clears and the rest. A detailed breakdown on the Firefly Nerf with Phase 3 and its comparison to the live TU9.1 game, and more. If you enjoyed this one, drop a like and a comment down below, and let's begin. So to start off with, let's talk about the 105% weapon damage buff that I've only recently found out about. One of my followers on Twitter, and I won't say their name in case they don't want people to know, but they reached out to me through DMs talking about a huge unfair advantage that will be possible during the Iron Horse raid. Now, I don't watch many raid runs. In fact, I don't watch them at all. I got carried through my raid to get my Eagle Bearer, and I didn't really pay too much attention as to what people were doing. But essentially, this will apply to any group that you want to use this in. But as the raid has, 8 players, the buff here is at its highest. Now, what I was told is that if you watch any of these speed runs of Dark Hours or other activities, there's a way that groups have been able to clear these very quickly. And it's actually to do with the BTSU gloves. Now, how this works is with the overcharge and the scanner pulse. With 7 players using the scanner pulse, so 7 other players, you've got the 1 player using the scanner pulse, and then you've got the 7 other players. This is going to add 15% damage buff to each player times the amount of players. So it's not 15% per player, which is how I think it should work. Well, not necessarily how I think it should work, but how I think it's intended to work. But instead, it's actually 15% times 7. So each player is actually going to get 105% weapon damage buff, meaning that you can actually do crazy amounts of damage in the raid, Razorback, or whatever it might be. Now, I've not been able to actually test this for myself here, but following this information that I got, I've had a look on YouTube and stuff, and it appears to be the case, and it's quite possibly well known within the community. Like I said, I may be really late on this, to be honest, but I just wanted to make everyone aware so we're all kind of on the same playing field for Iron Horse. The devs did make some changes to BTSU gloves with TU10, so in the live game it's actually possible to get the 105% weapon damage with anyone using the BTSU gloves, regardless of whether you had skill tiers or not. But with TU10, you will need to have skill tier 6 in order to proc the overcharge feature now. But that still means every single person will get 15 times 7 weapon buff increase. So actually nothing's really changed, to be honest, except the skill tier 6 player now won't be doing as much damage as they were doing before. But really, it's still 105% weapon damage for everyone. I just wanted to all kind of give you guys a heads up on this one. It may prove very useful for the next raid. If there are going to be damage dealing parts, then I suspect this will be your go-to way of doing it. But I suspect that with the next raid as well, instead of just doing an all-out DPS check, which is what we got with the pretty much with the Dark Hours raid, I believe there's going to be more to it. So as I said before, with all the changes that we're seeing with Phase 3 of the PTS, I suspect we're going to need stuff like hazard protection builds or explosive resistance, stuff like that, status effect builds, stuff like that is going to be important for the next raid. Alright, moving on, and let's talk about the blinder Firefly nerf with Phase 3. So Phase 2, the devs made a huge move to increase NPC resistances, which meant that there was kind of a blanket nerf applied to every single skill in the game. CC builds were neutered pretty hard. Predominantly though, skill status damage builds were actually severely destroyed, with every build being reduced by at least 50% in damage. With Phase 3, the devs decided this wasn't a good idea. They reverted it and stuff like that, which was absolutely the right thing to do. And instead what they decided was they're going to focus more on specific skills that they felt were maybe a bit unbalanced. With Phase 3 then, the changes they made were as follows. So the Riot Foam Chem Launcher, the ensnare duration bonus per skill tier was reduced from 20% to 10%. The Blinder Firefly blind duration bonus per skill tier reduced from 20 to 10%. And the Blinder Firefly base blind duration reduced from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. The Banshee Pulse confused duration reduced from 5 to 4 seconds. The Jammer Pulse Disrupt duration reduced from 4 to 3 seconds. The shock trap base shock duration reduced from 5 seconds to 3 seconds, and the shock trap base radius increased from 2 meters to 2.5 meters. So I just want to focus on the Firefly stuff here because I think that's what most people use, and this is where I'm getting the information from. So now you know the changes that were made to Blinder Firefly. Let's take a look at how this will actually translate into the live game when TU10 goes live. Reddit user Drossophiler, I think that's how you say the name, created a spreadsheet giving us the TU9.1, Phase 2 and Phase 3 values on the blind effect duration of the Blinder Firefly. And I have to admit, guys, and I hate to be the one to do this all the time, is what it feels like at the moment, but it's actually very disappointing. Anyone who's using Blinder Firefly, if you're one of those people, you know, as a CC build, Gear TL 6 and stuff, this is going to be very hard to swallow. So let's just take a look. Alright, so here's the post on Reddit. As I said, it's from Drossophiler, and it gives you the tables here. Table 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And what we'll do is we'll go through the spreadsheet here, and I'll basically go over everything. So table 1 says blind effect duration in both heroic and legendary per enemy archetype. TU9.1, PTS 2, PTS 3. This is with a tier 6 blinder, 90% status effect bonus coming from secondary attributes and brand set bonus. No skill mods in the Firefly. Below table 1 there is a brief description of the build. So as you can see here, so TU9.1 you can see the effect duration. So 25 seconds essentially on heroic. Legendary is 18.81 for TU9.1 for a red bar. Phase 2 was just well, that's quite a lot less there. That's almost 30%, more than 30% reduction to 18 seconds and 15. And as you can see here, that's almost a 50% decrease or 50% nerf essentially on the blinder duration here for PTS 3. If we go to the veterans here, it's the same kind of story, and we got the elites here as well, and then for the heroic it's pretty much the same story, but you can see the effect this is. You can see how much this has actually been neutered here. I think the most one that we really want to look at here, and you can see the other ones here, so we've got table 2, which is base resistance, veterancy scaling, and total resistance for each enemy archetype. So you can see all the types of archetypes here. We've got table 3 as well. Table 4, so the base effect duration. So TU9.1, 6, 6, and then PTS 3 is 5 seconds. Bonus duration per skill tier, 0.2, 0.2, 0.1. So the percentage bonus duration has actually been cut in half. An increase per skill tier in seconds. Again, it's been more than cut in half there. And I think this is the one that we really need to look at here, guys. So if we have a look here, so this is the status effect bonus. So this is your skill tiers, I believe. And this is the amount of status effects bonus you're actually getting from the gear itself. So as you can see, at 0 skill tiers in TU9.1, you're getting 6 seconds, 6, and then 5. With 90%, it's 11.4, 11.4, 9.5. And you can see all the figures here. This one's highlighted, and this is where you're going to see the big difference here, guys. So currently in TU9.1, if you got a status effects of 90% with a skill tier 2, then you can do 15, almost 16 seconds of blind effect duration. And that applies to PTS 2 as well. That was the same. But look where that is on the list here. So if you're on PTS Phase 3 here, then that is skill tier 6. And that is 90% status effects on your gear as well. And that is less than what is in the live game for a skill tier 2 90% status effect build. Which just seems incredibly nerfed, essentially. It even says here, just from the data I conclude, a tier 6 Firefly in PTS 3 is similar to a tier 2 Firefly in TU9.1. Both heroic and legendary, and across all enemy archetypes, the effectiveness of the Firefly is more reduced in PTS 3 than in PTS 2, which says a lot, because I think a lot of people thought that maybe in PTS 2 there was some significant changes. But actually, if you look here, in PTS Phase 2, there were none for the Blinder Firefly. It was exactly the same. But PTS 3 has really destroyed the Blinder Firefly. I'm looking forward to seeing what other people test for this stuff. Obviously, I can't test it because I'm not on PC, and so I'm just bringing you the information from what the community are testing. But for any of you guys here who are on console who've been using the Blinder Firefly for TU9.1, unless they change something soon, the devs for this Phase 3, then unfortunately when the Blind of Firefly comes out, you're going to find that actually it's not going to be nearly as good as it was before. I think the lowest that you can get a Blind of Firefly down for the cooldown duration is actually around 23 seconds, which means there's going to be about an 8-second period between the status effects, going away, the blind effect going away, and then you have them being able to use the skill again. Now, I appreciate the devs want to make sure that they do it so that you don't lock NPCs in a position where they can never do anything against you. And I think no one disagrees that having NPCs locked in position for the entirety of a mission is kind of doesn't really make sense. But to have this much of basically a nerf when you're investing so much in one particular skill, essentially, it seems a bit too much to me. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. This is just, again, me just giving you some news on the blind effect duration, and it just seems like the Firefly has really been nerfed for TU10. So we'll see if anything changes. Last but certainly not least, and let's look at loot attributes. We all play looter shooters like the Division 2 for the loot, and with TU10 I'm hopeful that you'll be able to find loot more rewarding, especially if you're playing challenging or above, and that looks to be the case based on Phase 3 of the PTS. With that said though, one thing has been completely overlooked by the devs. It's something that I've not actually had time to test myself, but certainly something that I've noticed now that I've read this post. This post came up recently on the Ubisoft forums from Dagromit, talking about how loot drop attributes are favoured towards multicolored attributes over everything else. It's actually really interesting, something I think the devs need to think about. Let's take a look. Alright guys, so this is the post from Dragomit. I think that's how you say it, or Dagromit, probably how you say it. And it says, this is a repeat of a similar exercise from Phase 2 and results are just as disappointing. Let's not forget guys, this applies to the live game as well, because they've made no changes, the devs have made no changes towards this. So it says, I ran around the southwest sector, targeted loot Providence on challenging and completed all the available level 3 checkpoints. Challenge and bounties and open world activities. This is what I got, ignoring weapons and mods. And I presume mods made up a lot of this. What I will say is they have made changes to the targeted loot. So you're probably going to see here that you get more targeted loot than in the live game. But that's not really what we're looking at here. So Providence, they had 17 pieces. 5 are full rainbow. So 3 colours. So that's red, blue and yellow on 1 piece of gear. 11 are multicoloured. So 2 colours, so you'd have 2 reds and 1 blue, for example, and 1 had attributes that match the core attribute colour. So that's 1 single colour. And then it says other brands. We had 10. We had 2 which are full rainbow, 3 colours. 8 which are multicoloured, 2 colours, and 0 have attributes that match the core attribute colour, i.e. single colour. This works out to a similar percentage as Phase 2, i.e. 26% are rainbow, 70% are 2 colour, and 4 are single colour. No, I did not run any missions in this sector as they had weapons as targeted loot. And then their own opinion was, I'm okay with the split between targeted loot, Providence and other brands, and I'd probably say I agree with that based on these percentages here. You're looking at what, 60 or 55 to 60% of Providence, and then the rest are other brands. And then the existence of some loot with full rainbow attributes. Again, I'm okay with some. As you can see here, I'm not okay with how few items have attributes that match the core attribute, i.e. the single colour. And I have to agree with this. It says what I'd like to see is a more even split between 2 colour items and single colour, i.e. where both attributes have the same colour as the core, and I completely agree with that. Riflemania, or Rifleman maybe, in the Phase 2 thread, or Riflemania in the Phase 2 thread suggested a split is 75% single coloured versus 25% multicoloured attributes. And while that would be great, I'd be satisfied if 50-50 of loot had single colour attributes. As it stands, there is little motivation to farm for better rolls if you're looking to go all in on one single colour build, e.g. all skills or all offensive attributes, etc. And I got to agree with this, guys. I mean, I've been running my all red DPS build for some time now, and it's not even all red at this point because I've simply not been able to get the pieces. In fact, 2 of the pieces, which are my backpack and my gloves, have my backpack has a blue stat on it and my gloves have a yellow stat, and I've not been able to find, since I've had this build, which has been about, I don't know, 6 weeks, maybe longer than that. Since I've been running this build, I've not been able to find any gloves or any backpack that I've been able to replace what I've got. And they've not even got full max rolls on everything. It's just the fact that I've not been able to find, you know, 3 offensive attributes on the gloves, or 3 offensive attributes on the backpack, plus a mod slot as well that's offensive. So what that does is it means that there's, you know, a lot of RNG to get that stuff, and if you don't, and you're having to get all rainbow colors, as we're seeing here, a lot more rainbow or even multicolors, is that you're wasting that one recalibration on just recalibrating it over to a red stat, which again means that more often than not you're not being able to get min-max rolls on your gear, because you're not being able to use the recalibration to min-max them, but you're using it to actually just change it from, say, a yellow stat to a red stat, or a blue stat to a red stat, whatever you're trying to achieve. It says here, I suspect there is a push towards encouraging people to put together hybrid builds, but the current balance is skewed too far towards this objective. And again, this might be the case, but then I would also say that hybrid builds, at least in their current state, and I don't even think with TU10 it's going to make much difference, hybrid builds are still not going to be you know, the best build for you to go for. There's going to be some builds out there that, you know, you can get hybrids, but it still looks to be that all red, or, you know, or not blue, but all survivability using a shield, for example, with Foundry Bulwark, are going to be the meta, or maybe all yellows on a CC build or something like that are going to be meta, rather than using, say, you know, 2 red, 2 blue, and 2 yellow. I suspect you're going to be going for what's currently as it is in the live game. So whilst this may be true, I don't think so. So let me know what you guys think of this. This is something that I've noticed a lot, and actually I've been playing today before I made this video, and I noticed this a lot. And it made even more sense when I actually saw this, and then I started farming and was like, wow, this happens in the live game, and it's so common. And it's frustrating because a lot of the stuff that I pick up I end up just dismantling, not because I don't think it's good, it's because it has, you know, rainbow colors. You know, it's all free, and I just don't want that. I want all reds. So there you go, guys. That's it for today's video. Hopefully you did enjoy this one. I wish the devs had probably looked at this a bit more for TU10, but to be honest, this is the first time that I'd even thought about it when I saw this post, and now I can see it, if that makes sense. So maybe the devs just aren't fully aware of this. I've not really seen anyone else covering this, but maybe this is something they can look at in a future update, maybe TU11 or TU10.1 or whatever's coming next. But that's it. Thanks for all your support, guys, and until the next one, Epic out.